of all those fighting the virus, Indian health workers are at the greatest risk of getting infected, and several have. We came out for them to bang plates and clap on Sunday. But then, despite all the tali and the thali bajawing, why are so many of them going public with S.O.Ss that they are unsafe? Look at this letter that has been put out by the King George Medical University, Lucknow, which has actually been hit by corona, an S.O.S by doctors. This S.O.S by Lucknow's King George Medical College says, we need anti-corona safety gear. The hospital then came out with a letter to rebut that S.O.S. They said that 3-ply masks, which are the most safer masks, are sufficient in the outpatient department. This despite a doctor who tested positive for coronavirus at the King George's College. Let's move on to JIPMER, which is the prestigious medical college in Puducherry. The director himself there in JIPMER has admitted to a shortage of safety gear. This, as we said, is one of India's top medical colleges, JIPMER. The director there said, I understand the pain, the fear that you are going through. Let's come now to AIIMS, another elite hospital and medical institution where, again facing shortage, AIIMS doctors have ordered safety gear themselves. AIIMS doctors appear to have bypassed the center or bypassed the manner in which safety gear is being procured, and they actually put up a work order saying this is the number of suits and gloves that we want. So, is there a safety gear crunch in India's top hospital? And finally, in Jammu, a Jammu doctor was transferred, he alleges, for blowing the whistle. The doctor says that there was no anti-COVID protection and he was transferred. Subsequently, of course, the doctors threatened to go on strike and they claim that they got the equipment. But let's listen to the video that this doctor made after he was transferred.
एक्चुअली एक हफ्ते से हमें मास्क की काफ़ी शॉर्टेज है, यहाँ सैनिटाइजर की काफ़ी शॉर्टेज है, हम काफ़ी पेशेंट देखते हैं. हमने लास्ट वीक गवर्नमेंट को बोला था, मेडिकल सुपरिटेंडेंट हमारे हॉस्पिटल को बोला था कि हमें मास्क और सैनिटाइजर चाहिए. एक हफ्ते में ना कोई मास्क मिला ना कोई सैनिटाइजर. एक हफ्ते से हम पेशेंट ऐसे ही देख रहे हैं बिना मास्क और सैनिटाइजर के. फिर हम मेडिकल सुपरिटेंडेंट के पास जाते हैं, उनको बोलते हैं मास्क दो, वो कहते हैं हमारे पास मास्क नहीं है, आप बिना मास्क के पेशेंट देखो. आधे घंटे के बाद मेरा एक ट्रांसफर ऑर्डर आता है, वो यहाँ से ट्रांसफर किया जाता है.
Now, these complaints of shortages by doctors have triggered a political war. Rahul Gandhi tweeted a tweet purportedly by a doctor in a government hospital in Rohtak, Haryana, where she allegedly complained about the lack of safety equipment. Later, this woman doctor's account was found to have been deleted. The BJP IT cell chief Amit Malviya hit back, arguing that there was no doctor and that it was a made-up account. We'll try to see if we can put up the tweet by Amit Malviya. There it is on screen, where he said that actually we have all the stock. He actually went on to claim that India was well stocked with personal safety gear for doctors, a claim that the government itself is not making. Here's the context. But before we come to that, let's look at that graphic about the claim versus what exactly is being said by Amit Malviya versus the reality. He says there's no shortage of personal safety gear, while actually there is a scarcity of safety gear according to the health ministry. He said India has already imported 51,000 coveralls, while the health ministry has floated a global tender for 10 lakh coveralls, which is a much higher amount. He says India can produce 35,000 coveralls per week. But the health ministry says if India can meet the requirements in-house, why is there a global tender? These are all the questions being raised in this entire episode. So there seems to be a contradiction between what the IT cell head is saying and between the reality. Now, here's the context. At least two news organizations, TOI and Scroll, have reported how safety wear makers have pointed to serious delays, perhaps even malpractice by the government in ordering safety equipment. And also, the government has been responding in a confused or opaque way when they've been challenged. Here's the chronology of what exactly has happened in this entire episode. So on the 18th of March, the government called a meeting on safety gear. It claims it needs and has already ordered 7.25 lakh safety suits. That exactly is the claim that it made. Now, the safety gear makers at that meeting were surprised. They say none of their associations has actually received orders. They asked the government for specifications, and they claimed that the government was unresponsive. Now, 3 days later, on the 21st of March, the Times of India reported on delays in the ordering of safety gear by the government. What happened on the same day? Suddenly, mystery tenders for safety gear surfaced on a government website, something which these safety gear makers say that they never heard of. This happened on the 21st of March. On the 23rd of March, the government admitted that there's a global shortage of coronavirus safety gear. They issued a press statement. They said that safety gears are manufactured by international companies who express their inability to supply on account of a glut in stock and a ban on exports. But on the 23rd of March, I beg your pardon, on the 24th of March, the very next day, they floated a global tender for corona safety gear. So on one hand, they said that there's a global shortage. On the other hand, they said they're floating a global tender. How does this work? This is confusing. Joining us on the show, Vivek Reddy, of course, continues to stay with us. Shubham Nath, National General Secretary, All India Medical Students Association. Vidya Krishnan, Health and Science journalist, are on the show with us. Vidya Krishnan, there seems to be a great amount of confusion, opacity, and even contradictions in this entire business of whether or not we have enough safety gear in our possession.
We don't. We don't have any safety gear, and what the government is saying currently is that they have now issued tenders. The thing is, this is an emergency procurement, and we do not have the time to issue tenders, then evaluate bids, and then procure. The entire stockpiling should have happened in January and February, like every other country was doing. This is a public health emergency, and I feel the government was well-intentioned when it did ban the export of PPE equipment, which is personal protective equipment.
Yes.
But they did not ban the export of the raw material that's used to make the PPE equipment. So a lot of manufacturers kept exporting it to countries that were at that point stockpiling. And this shortage and the glut that the government is now talking about in its press release, we are now looking at a crisis that is of our own making. The epidemiologists and the doctors that I have spoken to say that this could have jeopardized India's COVID response already.
That's quite worrying if that's indeed the case. Also joining us is, we have with us Rajiv Nath, Joint Managing Director, Hindustan Syringes and Medical Devices. He's also the coordinator for AMED, which is the Association of the Indian Medical Device Industry. And Rajiv Nath, so your association essentially, basically all those who manufacture medical equipment, including safety gear. So what exactly is going on, Rajiv Nath? Because on one hand, the government is putting out this message that they are fine, everything's in control. And on the other hand, they're raising tenders for huge amounts, 10 to 20 lakhs of protective coveralls, protective goggles, face masks. How do we understand this?
Well, actually, the country does require a huge amount of goods. If you see the perspective, in January, there was no issue. February, there was not much issue. Then if they have about 16,000 pieces in the buffer stock, that would be adequate. On today's date, when we're talking about a spike which might be around the corner anytime,
yes,
then we have to talk in terms of preparedness for that.
But
from
why?
February beginning, we've been talking about a stockpile being created.
Yes.
And we've been seeking these specifications so that the manufacturers can be roped in. And whatever manufacturing capacity is there, it is harnessed for the country is good. And if not, we can also rope in the garment exporters and the fabricators for garments and supply them the raw materials, and on a war footing create the product for them.
But what is
And
holding
it is
it up?
possible.
No, but Rajiv Nath, you've been in touch with the government now for, I don't know, several weeks. What's the problem? What's holding it up?
Well, the initial problem was that we've been seeking the specifications,
Right.
and it was a dynamic status. They were initially following specifications designed for Ebola virus,
Okay.
for which you required raw material which was not available in the country, period.
Right.
Subsequently, when it was realized it's not an airborne virus, really it's a touchborne virus, then WHO had revised their guidelines so that it became a system by which even a waterproof apron worn on a gown could possibly be used.
Right.
So therefore, there was a dilution of the specifications
Okay.
just a couple of weeks back. And based on that, we've been talking to the government. And since the government was not really taking a call on that, we had sought the manufacturers who have experience for exports and making this particular product and asked them to make an Indian specification which we shared with the government.
Right.
Now, yesterday, finally, we got a document from the government that is a nice, good document in terms of a specification. But if a specification is being made, we also need to have the product which can be made in the country to that specification and the raw materials for that.
But
And we need to address the
that's
issues of testing
But
and the
that's the
qualification.
thing. But that's the part of it that I'm confused about, because on one hand the government is saying that they want to source from Indian manufacturers. That's what they was doing till I think 24 to 48 hours ago, and then suddenly appears a global tender for all of this. Are they trying to get it from India? Are they trying to get it from around the world? They say that the world is a shortage, so then why is there a global tender? Shubham Nath, National General Secretary, All India
Yes.
Medical Students Association. Now,
The reason is, I'll just explain to you.
yes, okay.
The reason possibly is because now China has again started exports again. So even if there's no goods maybe enough from India,
Right.
I think the government currently is open to get the goods from China because again factories have started, again exports have started from there. So maybe they are just hoping against hope. If they can't get within India, they can also try to seek outside India.
Okay.
But they don't really need to do a tender.
Right.
They can always take a RFQ and buy on emergency.
Okay. Well, you know, here's the thing. Shubham Nath, National Secretary, All India, General Secretary, All India Medical Students Association. Fingers crossed. So far, the disease seems to be relatively, I don't want to use the word under control, but conservative compared to other countries. But even so, we are seeing all these social media posts and letters from hospitals and doctors saying that, listen, there's a problem. Is the problem being overplayed by these doctors, as in some cases the hospital administration is claiming, or is it serious?
See, whatever the government says, the fact of the matter is that we need at least 10 million 3.5 mm, 3-ply masks, 10 million, and we need approx 6 million N95 masks and approx 6.5 lakh safety gears, body coveralls right now. So
Okay.
that's the need of the hour.
Okay.
So where has the government failed? Till now, I should also appreciate the government. It has done a decent job in putting a check on it. But the government, I think before the government realized the threat, the stockists and the suppliers, they realized much before the government that such scale of, that threat of such scale can occur. And that was the result that large scale stocking in godowns of masks occurred simultaneously. Even if you talk 2 days ago, approx 25 lakh masks worth almost crores were recovered from a godown in Bhiwandi. So if the government had put a check on this, if the government had put a cap on the pricing of masks much before, then this black marketing of the mask would have stopped, which would have simultaneously resulted in automatically reduce in prices of this mask, and also it would have more masks could have been available in the market.
Okay.
But the government, I think, lagged there. It acted late.
Okay.
Also,
Okay. One at a time. Too many points, and you'll, the viewer will tune off because it can't get too technical. I think the simple point, Vivek Reddy, which is emerging, is that the government has delayed on this. It may have been swift in acting on other aspects of containing the disease, and we congratulate them on that, on putting in lockdowns and clampdowns. But this question of medical safety gear, which Amit Malviya is going around tweeting saying everything is under control. We've ordered, 50,000 pieces. I mean, let's get real. The government itself is saying there's a shortage. They're floating tenders for 20 lakhs of these pieces of equipment. Why is Mr. Malviya trying to mislead?
No. I don't think Amit Malviya is misled. What Amit Malviya seems to say, or very clearly is trying to put across, is that first of all, our buffer stocks are there, and these buffer stocks are enough for the present. But if the virus multiplies,
Vivek,
and there is it explodes,
they're not enough.
If it explodes,
they're not
well,
enough.
Again,
we just have 50,000 coveralls for the whole country.
Right.
That's not a buffer stock.
Right.
That's
why
not a
did the
buffer
government
stock by any means. Let's put up the graphic, Vivek. Let me put up the graphic for what we actually need. This is the government's own. Once again, this is the government's own tender. Hold on. Protective coveralls, 20 lakhs. Once again, Vivek. Protective coveralls, 20 lakhs. Protective goggles, 20 lakhs. N95 face masks, 80 lakhs. Triple layer surgical masks, 4 crores. Nitrile gloves or nitrile gloves, 40 lakhs. Hand sanitizers, 10 lakh bottles. These are figures that combine global and domestic tenders and have been put up on the government's own website. This is all been reported by several others. My colleague Arvind Ganasekar has also done some great reporting on this. This is the reality, my friend.
Yes. For 500 patients in India today, 500 to 600 patients in India today, you don't need 20 lakh coveralls or 10 lakh coveralls, or you don't need lakhs and lakhs of orders. But why is the government ordering it today?
We do. That's why they're being ordered
today. Correct. That is because in the wake of an explosive situation, the government has to prepare itself. And it's good that the government is going global.
Okay, just a second, Vivek. Others want to jump in. You have always stirred a hornet's nest. Vidya Krishnan. Vivek, I'll come to you. Vidya Krishnan. One at a time. Vivek, I don't want to silence Mike. Vidya Krishnan.
So, not at all wanting to politicize it. I'm genuinely very concerned about the public health crisis that is facing us.
Yeah.
The way the virus has been known to work is that we may have 500 cases today, but that's only because India is currently testing the lowest number of people in the world. And whereas most rich countries are offering testing for free, India's making testing available at a $60 price, which people cannot afford. Right. That is the reason why our numbers are low.
Okay.
Secondly, about the buffer stock, we do not have any buffer stock. If this is wartime, we need to start manufacturing on. Our house is on fire and we are starting to dig a well right now.
Right.
This is not even about blaming the government.
Has floated a global
as
tender.
A journalist, if you would let me finish.
Okay, Vivek, hold on. Vivek, this is not political. Just give it 1 second. This is not political. Yeah, Vidya, quickly complete the point because others also want to come.
From every corner of the globe.
Every day I'm getting phone calls from doctors. Yesterday I was speaking to a doctor who sent his family away for 3 months, and he told me it feels like I will never see my kids again and the goodbye feels final because I'm having to go into a fire without any protective equipment. Right. This is extremely irresponsible, and the government needs to stop looking at it as people blaming them.
Okay, Rajiv Nath, Rajiv Nath, I request you, let's keep it very simple. Let's not make it very technical for the viewer. What's the solution here? How do we solve this?
Yes, I think that's what's important. Let's not talk about the water gone under the bridge. Let's talk about what's required to go in the future. So I think on a war footing basis, the product needs to be made. The government may kindly consider our request to allow the product to be made under self-certification of manufacturers. The manufacturers who are experienced for exports, they can be qualified manufacturers in terms of their capacity and capability, who know the product and who are experienced in the product. And not only that, they can supervise the garment manufacturers, and those can be utilized to make the product. We have found from the manufacturers about 5 manufacturers for the raw material.
Right.
As per the revised specification. So different zones of the country can be roped in, and the problem can still be addressed. But we have to work as a team. But we don't need to make the bar so high that nobody is able to qualify in the country.
Okay. All right. Shubham.
We have to protect the people who protect us.
Okay. Shubham, we're completely out of time. Shubham Nath, last word.
I would just like to say that if there are enough protective stocks, then resident doctors across the country, across the nation, they are threatening to go on strike if protective equipments are not provided. So I request the leader to kindly provide the adequate stocks. There are hospitals which are asking doctors to bring their own masks. There are hospitals which are asking to, which are not able to provide the N95 mask, so they are asking to use the normal surgical mask, which is like life-threatening. So I would just request him to, like, if there's a buffer stock, then kindly provide it to all the doctors.
Okay. Well, we hope that the government wakes up and that we actually manage to get all of these safety equipment, the coveralls and all of that, to our medical professionals who are on the front line. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you all so much for joining us. That's it on Reality Check. Good night.